right? Okay. So 3.5, make sure we're all in the same spot. Absolute value is the distance from 0 on a number line. Absolute value is defined as the distance from 0 on a number line. Here's the thing, distance is never, ever, ever negative, okay? Distance is always a positive measure. So absolute value will never be negative because it's a distance, okay? So think about it this way. If I'm driving out to Bellevue from Plattsmouth, I'm going a positive distance. You don't go a negative distance there, you go a positive distance. So I'd go about, let's say like 15 miles up there. Now if I'm going from Bellevue down here, it's not like I'm going negative 15 miles because I'm going the opposite direction. It's still 15 miles. So you don't say it's one's negative, one's positive. It's always, always, always positive, okay? You don't see the car's odometer go down, okay? You see it go up, okay? You never pull up Google Maps on your phone and say, oh, it's a negative distance. Like, that won't happen. It's not in existence. You can't go a negative distance. If I step forward, that's one step. If I step back, it's still one step. It's not a negative step. It's still just a step. If you write absolute value, the absolute value of n is written as this. There are two lines, two bars. They're called absolute value bars. Okay. So we have these absolute value bars here. So this is saying the absolute value of n. So if we say the absolute value of x, any number x, is equal to 5, that means the distance between 0 and x is 5 units. So we say the absolute value of x is 5. That means that the distance between x and 5 is x and 0, is 5 units. So if the absolute value of x is 5, then x will either be negative 5 or 5. Because how far is negative 5 from 0?
5.
5. How far is positive 5 from 0?
5.
5. So either way, they're both 5 away. So if we have the absolute value, we can have two answers there. We can have it be negative 5 or we can have it be 5. Because either way, if we have the absolute value of negative 5, that's still 5. If we have the absolute value of normal 5, positive 5, that's 5 as well. They're both 5 away from 0 on a number line. So our solution set is negative 5 and 5. Okay? When looking at open sentences or equations with absolute value, we must look at both cases for each problem because we have that positive and negative one there. Okay, because we have two different answers. We have to look at both cases for each problem. We'll talk about that. Yes, Dylan. Yes, you may. Sorry.
I'm come to the conclusion that our 7th grade math teacher was wrong because he taught us that if positives in it, then it's like a negative.
Who was?
Mr. Wallace.
I hate him.
He was the worst teacher of all time.
I made him cry.
She did make him cry.
We're going to continue on, okay? But I'll just say absolute value. Whenever you have an absolute value, it always comes out as positive. Always, always, always comes out as positive.
Never mind.
You can't put something in an absolute value. You can't take the absolute value of something and get a negative. It's always either going to be 0 or positive.
Never mind. We did my Ronzi bits.
Determine if the following numbers are solutions to the given absolute value equation. So we have the absolute value of a minus 3 is equal to 12. And we're saying, is 9 a solution? So how are we going to figure out if 9 is a solution? Plug it in. So we say, okay, the absolute value of 9 minus 3 equals 12. You guys remember me doing that? Equals all the time?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Danny's laughing a little bit, so I'm thinking maybe, okay. So let's plug that in with me, please, and thank you. Okay, so we treat absolute value bars just like we would parentheses. We do everything inside of those first. Okay, 9 minus 3 is what? 6. The absolute value of 6, is that equal to 12?
No.
How far away is 6 from 0? 6. So the absolute value of 6 is 6, and 6 is not equal to 12. So was this number a solution to this equation?
No solution.
No. So it was not a solution. The answer to that one is no, it's not a solution.
You're funny.
Okay. On the second one here, we're going to do the same thing. The absolute value of 1/3 x plus 2 is equal to negative 4. And we're trying to test out, which is why it's going after the semicolon, if negative 18 is a solution. How are we going to figure out if negative 18 is a solution or not? Plug it in. 1/3 times negative 18, you can make it a negative 18 over 1 to help with that fraction, plus 2 equals negative 4. Okay, so we're saying the absolute value of all of this, just negative 18 is now x. So what can we do with that negative 18 and that 3? We can cross reduce. Awesome. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into negative 18 how many times? Negative 6 times. Awesome. We have negative 6 on the top, and just a 1 on the bottom, so you don't have to write it. Negative 6 plus 2 is equals negative 4. Well, what is negative 6 plus 2? Negative 4, okay. So we're saying, does the absolute value of negative 4 equal negative 4?
No.
How far away is negative 4 from 0? 4. So the absolute value of negative 4, let me rewrite this up here because I ran out of room, guys. Absolute value of negative 4 is 4. Does 4 equal negative 4?
No.
No. So even though we have negative 4 inside the absolute value, once we take the absolute value, once we say, oh, it's 4 away from 0, distance is always positive, well then, yeah, positive can't be a negative. So is negative 18 the solution? No. And I'll go one step further, guys, and say, hey, if we're taking the absolute value of the left side, is it possible that we'll get that equal to a negative? Is absolute value ever negative? Is absolute value ever negative? No. So can we ever have the absolute value equaling a negative? No, it won't be true. So anytime you have the absolute value equal a negative, we know it's not true. Okay? You okay, Danny? Okay. Let's look at number 3. Okay? We have the absolute value of y plus 3 is equal to 5. We're testing to see if 2 is a solution. So what are we going to do with 2 there?
Put it in y.
Plug it in for y. The absolute value of 2 plus 3 equals 5. What is 2 plus 3?
5.
How far away is 5 from 0?
5.
5, okay, so the absolute value of 5 is 5. Does 5 equal 5?
Yes.
Awesome, so this was a solution.
I love the word yes. He puts that on everybody's.
Want to know what word I hate? Never mind. I don't even want to say it because it just It's not moist.
Oh, a lot of people.
Anyway, okay. I want you guys to try number 4 on your own.
What's the word you hate? Travis Crossing.
How would I tell you?
My favorite word is salad. Oh yeah, duh. I won't say it.
Ew, it's so weird. Like I'm just thinking of it and I'm cringing. I literally have goosebumps.
Don't think about it.
No.
Remember mayonnaise in your.
I know. It just makes me cringe. Ugh.
I hate the word chocolate.
He doesn't know.
There's a word that I really don't like.
I don't want to tell you.
Dang.
I never even like to say it. Beverage.
Why did you like that word? It was so good.
I hate it. The word
I don't know the word.
beverage.
From the
No, it just makes. Oh my god, stop.
Camden. Oh, it was called, you know what, Danny?
Stop saying it, Dylan. I'll come over and punch you like I did James yesterday.
Oh, punch James, that's me.
Except you won't go back.
Where did you punch him?
What?
You like fell to the floor.
I went to
Wait,
the
you're still
stomach.
not.
Oh, I put in the wrong number.
Big rip. Did you lose your entire notepad? You forgot it again. So does that work? Okay. So what's negative 6 minus 1? It is negative 7. So the absolute value of negative 7.
Oh, wait, what are we doing? Oh.
Mr. Crosswell, can I borrow a scrap piece of paper? Because I kind of really gotta go. Positive.
One time M&M's.
You're like 5
I'm
times.
so
I kept throwing them
confused.
in Levi's hood, so that's why I kept laughing.
Yeah.
No.
Wait, that's a positive.
No,
Okay,
it's
fine.
interest
Okay, I understand that.
I think they're all out.
Nice cacti.
They're on the floor.
Yeah, they're all.
Mr. Crosswell, can I borrow a scrap piece of paper? Because I kind of really gotta go and forgot mine.
You want to borrow someone else's pass?
You can borrow mine.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
Easy. Okay, hold on, I'm trying to find it.
I give up on people.
Holding on.
Oh,
Hold
okay.
up, got it, hold up.
I got it, mister.
Okay. So, let's go and talk about this one up here, please. Thank you. So we plug in -2 for x. 3 times -2 minus 1. Absolute value of that equals 7. 3 times -2 is -6. Absolute value of -6 minus 1 equals 7. -6 minus 1 is -7. What is the absolute value of -7? 7. So yeah, this does work.
I like
Add those
melt,
together.
I mean, letting the M&M's
Yep.
melt in my mouth.
Because it's -6 minus 1, so 2 negatives,
It hurts.
no more negative.
Okay.
Okay, questions on that? Okay, let's go right below this to solving this with, it says inequality, but that's not true.
We
Solving
are
the
saying
equations.
yes.
Why are we saying yes? Is that your question?
Yeah.
Okay, because we were asked up above in our instructions
Okay,
To
because I
determine-
wasn't paying attention.
to determine if the following numbers are solutions. So it was a solution, so but yes, it was a solution.
Oh, okay.
No, it wasn't a solution. Yes, it was a solution. No, it wasn't a solution. Okay. So continuing on, solve this should be equations. Bigger it. Solve the equations and graph the solution. We're going to write our answer in set notation. Okay, we'll learn how to write our answer in set notation for these. It's not much different. Okay. So the absolute value of x is equal to 3. We said that we had to consider both cases. Before, when we had the absolute value of x was 5, how many answers did we have? Go back to the previous page.
2.
Okay, we had 2 answers. What were our 2 answers?
I don't know, I can't guess. I don't even know.
5 and -5. So, when we do this problem, we have to do is we have to make 2 different equations here. You have, when you have the absolute value of x is equal to 3, you leave this left side, x equals 3. You write one equation just as it is without the absolute value bars. Then you do another equation where the left side is the same, but now you make the right side negative. Because x could either be 3 or -3. And if you plug these into check, Victoria, what's the absolute value of 3?
3.
And what's the absolute value of -3?
3.
3. So either way, the absolute value of either of these is 3. So these are our 2 solutions.
That's what you're right
So,
now.
yep. And so to graph this, we place both -3 and 3 on the graph. Okay? And it's equals, it's not greater than or equal to, it's not an inequality. So we just put a closed circle there. And there's no arrows. There's no arrows because we don't have inequalities. We only have arrows when it's an inequality because that's talking about a
Thank
broad
God,
range of
I
numbers.
always get this confused.
Okay, oof. Okay? This case though, we're just talking about x is exactly -3 or x is exactly 3. Because if x is 4, then the absolute value isn't 3. If x is 5, the absolute value isn't 3. If x is 0, the absolute value is not 3. So that'd be our graph. For our set notation, we still do the braces. We have x such that. Now in this case, what do we think we're going to put? Our equations. Okay, but we're going to have 3 and -3. So x equals, and what you can just put, guys, is I like to do these lowest to highest because that makes it easy for us to organize and see later. X is equal to -3, comma, 3. We're just saying x can equal both of those. So our solution is as long as x is either -3 or 3, this works. As long as x is either -3 or 3, it works.
I would just like to say melatonin makes me have like really weird dreams. Like I was just
Okay.
thinking about that and I needed to say it.
So let's try number 2 together. The absolute value of y is equal to 7. So we have our normal equation where we just drop the absolute value bars. And what do we do with our second equation? What do we make negative? The left or the right side? The right side, right? We make negative 7. Okay? So we have one where you leave it normal, and then the other one you make the right side negative. The one that's not absolute value, you make that negative. So then we graph these because these equations are already solved for us. We'll graph negative 7 and 7.
I think he
Not.
Who?
No, I saw his hair.
Okay.
Just kidding.
So these are closed circles because it's equal to. Are there any arrows here? No, it's not. It's not an inequality. It's an equation. So now we do our set notation. Y such that y is equal to what comma what?
7, negative.
Yeah, and you can do the 7 first or the negative 7 first. I always encourage the negative 7 first. If we have lowest to highest, I think it just.
Wait,
keeps
why are we
going.
drawing arrows?
You're not drawing arrows because it's not an inequality. We're not saying that anything less than negative 7 works. No, it has to be exactly negative 7
Oh.
because it's an equation.
Wait, why are we filling in the circle? For the
Because it's equal to.
Showing my love you, baby.
We're saying that is the solution.
got it.
Wait, no. Okay, just hold on. Please. No.
Oh, holding on.
Okay, good.
Hold up. Looks like you're on like a bus or something.
When I'm on the bus, this is how I sit.
That's not sitting.
That's
It's like rocking.
Remember that time Olivia Van Haven dropped her phone out of the
Yes!
window?
Oh my goodness! No.
She dropped her phone out of the window on like a highway.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it got really hot, so she held it out the window to cool it off, and then she let go.
Oh my god, you wanna know what's so funny? When the numbers project on your face, and you can just see like the math problem on your face.
Mr. Costa, go over a little bit.
On your forehead.
Go on,
Oh,
like
Oh,
on your
the
tippy
math
toes,
on
on your
your
tippy toes.
So, the absolute value of y minus 2 is equal to 4. Once again, with these absolute value equations, we'll do the same thing we did up here. The first one we write normal. Y minus 2 is equal to 4. What do we do with the second equation? Y minus 2 equals negative 4. Everything stays the same, except for now it's equal to a negative 4. Anytime you have absolute value, you have to have two equations. Okay? So then we solve both these equations. On the left equation, what do we do to solve it?
Add 2.
On the right equation, what do we do to solve it? Oh, the same thing, okay. So left equation, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Y is equal to what?
6.
Awesome. On the right equation, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Y is equal to
Negative 6.
negative. Negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So just because it started out as 4 and 4 and we did the same thing, does not mean we get 6 and negative 6 though. You've got to be careful with that. That's a common misconception. So with our graph here, what two numbers am I going to place on the graph now?
Negative 2 and 6.
And I'm going to put closed circles. Are there any arrows here?
No.
No, it's not an inequality, it's an equation. For my set notation, y such that y is equal to what comma what?
Negative 2, comma 6.
Negative 2 comma 6. I want a mouse.
I don't care that's at your house.
You a dog or a cat?
No.
You just have a lint roller?
Yeah,
Yeah. I only use that when I have dog hair on me.
that's fair.
What
I mean, I
about
use
the
them.
blanket fuzz?
I haven't used them like a year.
Okay, you can bring it for me.
Just a bat.
Do you want to know how many
And
animals I have?
infinity lint rollers.
No.
How many do you have? A single snap. Okay. Anyway, on 4. Actually, I want you guys to try 4 on your own.
What?
Yes.
Can I just wait until you go over?
Oh
Unless
my
I was
gosh.
then I was forget. Then I'll make you do it on the board then.
Alright.
I'll attempt to do it on the board.
Yeah. Hey, no, don't take my spot. I'm doing it.
And then you're working on number
Oh, I'm still number 3, because I'm a little slow in the brain. Oh my gosh, I just forgot what I'm doing.
God, I hate math.
Do yourself too.
So I hated math, but that works.
Is there any way to?
No, Levi.
There's not.
No, I can't do fraction. Where's my get to the fraction one?
I want to get better. Oh, nice. Get good.
Big brain.
Go big brain.
Big brain team.
Big mouth.
Whoa.
Not the same thing.
Hold up.
Isn't that supposed to be left hand?
Yeah, it's really funny. My uncle showed it to me.
Mr. House, I have a good question. On number.
We'll go against this. We should match up.
Okay.
Mr. Cross, I don't get this. I'm not good at fractions.
What is the first one?
My ADHD meds, but obviously it's not working, so.
Okay, I'm done.
What's our first step here, guys?
No clue, because
Oh,
there's
writing it
fraction
out.
9.
Writing out how
the
many?
equation.
2 equations. What's our first equation, Dylan?
2/3 times x plus 2
What is this?
absolute value equals 3.
This equals 3.
The second one is 2/3 times x plus 2 absolute value equals -3.
You don't have to put the absolute value thing.
Oh my
But yes.
gosh, I think it's deodorant.
Okay, so we have 1 equals +3, 1 equals -3. That's our first step. Then we solve each of these 2 equations, right? Then we solve these 2 equations. Donald, what's your first step in solving these equations?
Track 2.
Wait, what? I did this. Oh my god.
2/3 x is equal to 1.
And it cancels out.
Okay?
Why did I
So we can finish solving this one on the left. What do we do with this 2/3 x? It's multiplying with it.
get to divide it?
Okay, we don't like dividing this because if we divide this, that looks weird, doesn't it? So what do we do instead, Levi? Let's multiply by the reciprocal. Multiply by 3/2 on both sides.
That's 1.
X is equal to 3/2.
So those divide out, cross simplify out. We have x is equal to, 3/2.
How do you write that out?
Equals 2/3. Can you imagine me getting something right? No, me
So for the right equation, are we going to solve it the same way?
neither. No.
Negative. Yeah, we're gonna solve it.
It's a
We
hard
were going to
math
solve the
life.
same way, we're not going to do the same answer. Okay? So
Oh!
subtract 2.
You get 5 negative.
2/3 x is equal to -5. Then what do we do with this 2/3 x again? Multiply by the reciprocal. Doesn't work out quite as smooth. We saw x is equal to, but now can we reduce -5 and 2? No. Okay, what's -5 times 3? Okay, -15 over 2 times 1? 2. So we have x equal to 3/2 and x equal to -15 over 2.
Now we're gonna do our graph because I.
Now we're going to do our graph. And I'm going to move my graph a little bit over here because I kind of ran out of room.
Me too.
What 2 numbers am I going to put on my graph? Yeah, -15 over 2 is going to be on the left. We don't want that fraction intimidate us. We still write it just the same. Still a
Wait, that
number.
doesn't work though.
Why not, guys?
Because it's a fraction, fraction's not gonna. We want a number line.
No, the fraction's going to be on the
Wait.
lines. We're fine with that.
Yeah, that's so legal.
Okay. Okay, Haley. Wait, that's legal. Okay. Are these closed or open circles?
Whatever.
Closed.
Closed, equal to.
I missed something.
Are there any arrows?
No.
No, it's not an equality.
Yeah, I thought I had to solve.
Okay? Then we put it in set notation. Okay, we put it in set notation. So please go ahead and do that with me. X such that x is equal to -15 over 2, comma, 3/2.
Mr. Gossel?
What about this is confusing to you, Ray? Okay, so does the first step make sense how we split it into 2 equations?
I wish you had been here, Ray.
Okay, so,
Me too.
sorry, okay, so going back to number 1, does it make sense why our answers would be 3 and -3? Okay, what's absolute value mean?
You do, Danny?
Okay,
Do you?
it means it's the distance from what number?
Me too.
From 0. So how far is 3 from 0? How far is -3 from 0? they're both 3, right? So that's what absolute value means. It makes everything positive. And so the absolute value of 3 is 3. The absolute value of negative 3 is 3. So x would be either of those answers. On number 1. Does that make sense? I can get both those answers on number 1.
My assignments are so bad.
I know. Okay. So on number 2, let's look at this one. How far away is 7 from 7? Okay, how far is negative 7 from 7? Number 2, I think it's 7. So the absolute value of both of these is 7. So those are both possible answers.
Oh, wait, we're just doing
Yeah.
that. Oh, I got it.
Okay. Okay, let's look at number 5 here, guys.
Mr. Costello,
Yes.
next week, since we're not gonna be here on Friday, you should take a video of your thoughts on Friday and post it on Google Classroom.
Or we just don't do homework. I know, crazy.
No, I'm talking about like next Friday.
We won't be here Friday.
That's what I'm saying. Why would we do work at home?
It's not.
No, just go on Google Classroom and watch his
Friday.
story on
Why
Fox.
would
Oh, I
you
thought you
do
were
that?
saying like
Did you-
what? I didn't know what you were saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm like, you missed.
You're like that boy.
She doesn't get access to the video now.
Yeah, everyone gets a Benetoria. Okay. On number 5, the absolute. Damien, this is what I can see.
Okay.
The absolute value of 3n minus 4 is equal to negative 1. Hey, wait. Earlier, we said can absolute value equal a negative number?
No.
No. So what happens if we have absolute value equaling a negative number?
It's wrong.
It's
What are
wrong.
we doing?
There's no solution. Why is there no solution?
Because it's a negative.
Absolute value can't be a negative number. We only get positive numbers from our absolute value.
Wait, why?
Geez, these people are.
Wait, why?
Absolute value cannot equal a negative number. That doesn't mean that one of our solutions can't be negative, because if we plug this negative number in, we still get a positive 3. But absolute value can't be equal to a negative number, because you can't have negative distance. You can't be negative 1 units away from 0. That would not make sense. Okay? I want you guys to try number 6 on your own, please. Thank you. Okay? Remember our first step? Like we did on the first 4 there.
I just smelt like my grandma's house.
Yeah,
I
that,
understand that.
okay,
I
that much.
always do that. Not my grandma's house.
Thank you, Sean.
Okay, be careful here, be careful here, be careful here. This is the absolute value of 2x plus 5. It's not 12, it's not 51. Okay, I'm going to highlight that now. Okay, the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is equal to 12. So remember our first step, and then go from there, please. Thank you.
Wait, what do I do?
Okay. Look back to our first 4 examples.
Yeah.
Okay, but what was the first step in each
Hold
one?
on.
You basically write it out 2 times, but one of them equals 12, and the other equals negative 12. And then you solve them.
Thank you, Cheyenne.
You were a wondrous help.
Wait a minute.
Cheyenne,
That's
you're
their
fighting for that
cost.
one?
Huh?
You're fighting for that one? No. Yes. Wait, that's legal.
No, it's not. That's not illegal. The other thing's illegal.
Okay.
What are you guys talking about? Illegal.
It means feet.
That's illegal.
That's all legal. That's one of the answers.
How many times is 12? How many times is 1?
What are you talking
Wait,
about?
no, okay, my.
Yeah, exactly, that's what
I
I'm
still
doing.
don't do
That's
it.
literally
Oh,
that's not
that's not
mathematical.
right.
Goes into it twice, actually.
You're gonna go
2.5.
so I don't think I'm 3. 3 times.
You have my point.
What?
What?
Hold on, wait.
Who goes for that times with you got
Oh,
five
that's
looking
almost
for
fine.
three? Just God,
No.
why?
3, 2, 6.
Look at first step here.
So who picked the other times? Well, at least everyone knows you were the other one, right?
Bruh,
Hey Max, why don't we check?
It doesn't.
bruh,
Bruh.
what?
Oh, weird.
I like them as improper fractions, but that's all.
Remember the time you come back?
Oh,
Five
Yeah,
minus
why are you
12
talking so distracted?
divided by 2, like,
I'm working out.
always
Oh my
5.
what's the other one, huh?
Where'd you get that one out of?
Hi. What are you doing? What is going on?
What's
You help me.
negative 12?
Help me.
12. Isn't it like- Maddox, come here. Maddox, can you check this? What? Yeah, hold on. Okay. Maddox. Oh,
Sure.
Hey, just be, hey Dom, same thing as being a 17 over 2 is the same as your, all people might have improper fractions, okay?
Negative what?
Oh, you're giving the answers away.
What?
Hey, Maddox, I have a question. You can check my answer.
I agree 7 over 2.
Can you help me, Maddox? I'm done. Oh.
I know.
Gotcha.
One time Mr. Kness told me, cookies are done, you are finished.
Yes, he did say that.
What does that mean?
That's interesting.
So we can't say I'm done, we have to say I'm finished.
Reflex. But I suppose.
Hi, Mr. Kness.
Who is my
This class is so boring.
I think I had him, and I broke me and Eli's car.
during
It was
wrestling?
so
He
boring,
was
but
nice.
super easy.
Yeah, but I didn't do anything. I still got an A. I got 100 in this class.
I remember I was partners with.
I got first place in the free. No, I made Lucas do like all the work and I just wanted to
We switched partners.
Me and Tucker were working on our car.
Did he let us?
We didn't know how to work something, and
Did you guys have a bad break?
car snaps in half. We didn't even like race it or anything.
Okay. Stop by this one up here, please, and thank you.
Like,
Let's booking this one.
And it's
So-
the end of the thing.
It is the end of this one, okay?
Yeah,
2x
I'm
plus
doing-
5 is equal to 12. 2x plus 5 is equal to negative 12.
Wait, hold on. Can you go slower? Because my brain cannot process all this.
Well, we should already be
Yeah,
I didn't do it. I didn't know what I was doing.
here. Okay?
You should write them.
I know, but it would help me. Maddox.
Why are you blaming Maddox, man?
Because he was done and
You could have
He was finished.
You could have asked me for help.
I did.
I didn't hear you.
You're asking other people for help. I mean, you were helping other people.
Okay, so we make two equations, one's positive, one's negative on the right side, okay?
Levi, you're
The left equation, we're going to subtract 5 from both sides. 2x is now equal to 7,
Okay, I just finished writing it and now.
divided by 2.
7.
Oh my gosh!
7 over 2. And I can help you more individually in one moment,
No, you make me mad.
okay? We have the left equation solve for 7 over 2. If you want to make that a mixed number, 3 and 3.5, or a decimal, 3.5, that's okay. I'm fine with either. Right equation, we subtract 5, just like we did in the left equation. 2x is now equal to negative 17. Okay, 2 negatives become a bigger negative. Divide both sides by 2. And we get x is equal to negative 17 over 2. Now here, if you want to make that an improper fraction, or a mixed number, that'd be negative 8.5, or a decimal would be negative 8.5. So go ahead and graph this here. Yep, negative 17 over 2 is on the left, that's the first
Two is
negative
not
number.
even.
And then 7 over 2. It's okay, we can leave this as a
Or
fraction.
17.
It's a, if we leave it as a
They're
fraction.
close circles, right?
They are closed circles. And do you have any arrows? No. Now x, such that we do our set notation, x is equal to negative 17 over 2, comma, 7 over 2.
Okay,
For a home game.
Dylan's only October.
I know, it feels like they're starting to move.
But I'm just gonna wear opening on my pink crocs.
Okay. So now, guys, okay, that concludes our notes for the day, okay, I'm gonna pass it.
Oh my goodness, that made me feel bad.
Okay,
If I make this,
We have an
It's
assignment.
17
Full
poles.
of game stuff. That we wanted.
That would,
we didn't do notes the whole time.
Yeah, we did.
No, we did homework. for like
When you're
the
best.
First half an hour.
One of the
did.
homework.
We didn't go through fast.
really?
Oh, why is it yellow this time? Levi looks just like his mom.
Did you see my dad?
Well, no, but I just saw your mom
Exactly
like
like it.
really up close, like 2 minutes, not 3 minutes. It was like an hour ago.
Okay.
You've never seen my dad. I look.
Hey, you guys can listen to music if you want, okay?
Big
Let's not
forehead
on
and
our
everything.
phones. Let's not on
I'm
our
looking up how to
phones.
get deodorant off my shirt.
You rub it with your shirt.
Rub it
Seriously,
with
you
your
rub
saliva.
you rub another part of your shirt on your shirt. I just did it like the other day.
And it would get on
It's a
the.
real thing.
Or take your
No, it's a real
finger.
thing. Like you use the same fabric to get it out. Trust me.
Oh my gosh, it actually says that.
I know.
So my sister puts her deodorant on my car.
Wait, but it's on my
They,
leg.
like broke off. She like screwed it up so high and they broke off.
Yeah.
And she got it all the way down her pants and she just rubbed it into her seat. My dad got so mad.
But yeah. So
He
it's
was
super dark.
And then my mom went out there and just wiped it off.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
No, it rubs off. Hey, you just use your shirt to get it off.
What if it's on your leggings and you just put hand sanitizer and your saliva on it and now it's just white?
Should tell you to do that. Okay, so phones for music right now, if you want. Okay, I'll play music as well. Okay, let's begin working.
The song that you